That night, I will never forget. At the pizza place where I worked, as there were only a few customers left, I was preparing to close and head home. I had been working the late shift alone, only me at the counter answering calls. As I was about to finish and leave, the phone suddenly rang. Even though it was the last shift, I had to pick up the phone. I answered it, but there was an eerie silence, so I hung up. About a minute later, the phone rang again. This time, I picked it up, but still, the silence remained. I was about to hang up again when I suddenly heard a weak, cold voice coming through the receiver, almost as if it was coming from a deep cave. It was an elderly woman, her voice trembling but firm, asking me to deliver a regular pizza to her. Inside, I was fuming, but I still managed to keep a polite tone. I just wanted to finish my job and go home. I called out to my boss, informing him that someone was requesting a delivery. He told me I had to go. Though I was annoyed, I realized it was another tip, and elderly people often tip the most, so I decided it was fine. I jotted down the address and told her the pizza would be there soon, but she had already hung up. I thought it was rude, but I ignored it and shouted to the chef for a regular pizza. My boss told me to go home after the delivery since the place would be closing. A little before 10 o'clock, I got in my car and entered the address into the GPS. The house was 7 miles away. The GPS led me through quiet streets, farther and farther from the city center. The farther I drove, the more still and eerie the surroundings became. When I arrived, I saw a small one-story house in a very quiet, deserted block. I got out of the car, took the pizza, and walked up to the door to ring the doorbell. There were no lights on in the house, and everything was in darkness. I thought maybe the old woman had given me the wrong address, but I rang the doorbell again. This time, there was still no answer. I was about to give up and turn back when I saw a figure standing at the window. My heart raced, and I backed up at first, but then I cautiously approached the window to see who it was. It was an old woman, probably in her late 70s, standing still with a blank expression, staring at me. I tried to call to her through the glass, telling her I had her pizza, but she didn't react. I yelled louder, and that's when she suddenly smiled. But it wasn't a friendly smile. It was a grotesque, chilling smile that made my skin crawl. I still vividly remember the exact expression she had as she looked at me through the window. At that moment, I was overwhelmed with fear. I quickly dropped the pizza, ran back to my car, and set the pizza on the passenger seat. I texted my boss about what had just happened. As I prepared to drive away, I looked to my right for one last glance, only to find the old woman standing outside my passenger window, still staring at me with that same eerie expression. I quickly put my car into drive and sped off, not daring to look back. My heart was pounding, and I couldn't shake the feeling that she was following me. I drove straight home, too terrified to stop. Since then, my boss never asked me to do another late-night delivery. This happened 4 years ago when I was still in high school. I still can't forget the fear I felt that night, having to work the late shift alone. But there was another time, another delivery. This time, it was supposed to be my last delivery for the shift. I hopped into my 1999 Camry, which was the perfect car for pizza deliveries, entered the address into the GPS, and drove. The house was a long way from town, far out in the countryside. As I drove through the empty forest, I started to feel uneasy. GPS led me to an old, wooden cottage. It sat in complete isolation in the middle of nothing but trees. The lawn was overgrown, the grass nearly up to my knees. I was used to delivering to places like this, but something felt off. I walked up to the front door, but there was no door, just a window and a peephole. I rang the doorbell and immediately heard footsteps on the other side. The footsteps stopped right by the door. I began to feel watched, and that's when I noticed the peephole. "Is this the pizza guy?" A raspy voice called out from the other side. I heard the voice ask me to bring the pizza around to the back. I didn't like the sound of that, but I didn't want to argue. I reluctantly made my way around the house. As I reached the back, I noticed a small shed and a patio area with 4 chairs. One of the chairs was facing away from me. I approached and said, "Excuse me," but the person didn't move. "Excuse me," I called again, louder. Suddenly, I heard a voice from behind me. "Over here." I turned around to see a man poking his head out from the corner of the house, grinning like a maniac. "Come over here. I want to show you something." I turned and bolted back toward my car, still holding the pizza, panicking as I ran. Once I reached my car, I started it and sped off, not looking back. On my way back to the pizzeria, I pulled over and called the police. By the time they arrived, the house was abandoned, and no one had been there for years. A few days later, I quit my delivery job, and I often wonder what would have happened if I had gone up to that man. To this day, I still wish I had turned my head to see who or what was sitting in that chair. Then, one night, I was doing late-night deliveries again. I had taken this shortcut through the woods many times before, but this time it was foggy. I was driving down the road when someone suddenly jumped out of the bushes and onto the road. I slammed on the brakes, but the sickening bump and thud from the front of the car confirmed that I had hit someone. I quickly got out of the car and checked to see if the person was okay. It was a man wearing a black hoodie, lying motionless by my tire. I had no idea what to do. Why was this man out here in the middle of nowhere? Why had he jumped in front of my car? Things got even stranger when I heard a scream coming from the woods to my left. Someone was in trouble. I looked back at the man I had hit. He was still motionless. For some reason, I thought it would be okay to leave him behind and go look for the source of the scream. I moved into the woods, hoping to hear another cry for help, but there was nothing, just silence, except for the sounds of the night creatures. "Where are you?" I called out, my voice trembling. Then I heard footsteps, crunching the leaves beneath them. I turned and saw a figure hiding behind a tree, watching me. I ran as fast as I could back to my car, glancing over my shoulder to make sure I wasn't being followed. When I got to the car, the man I had hit was gone. I didn't stick around to wonder where he went. I just drove off, my heart racing the entire way. I made the delivery, and when I rang the doorbell, a middle-aged woman answered. She paid me and then looked behind me with a puzzled expression. "They let you guys have delivery partners now?" she asked. I was confused and asked what she meant. "You've got someone in your car," she said, pointing. I turned around and saw a person sitting in the back seat of my car. I called the cops using her phone, and they arrived shortly after. But by the time they got there, the person in my car was gone. The police found a blood-stained knife in the back seat where the man had been hiding. This memory still haunts me every day, and I can't help but imagine what might have happened if I hadn't made that delivery.